I'd like to talk about chord transition, and this is kind of a gray area for some people. Sometimes it can be kind of troubling. But once you've learned the mechanics of the chord and how to form the chord, now you need to know how to move from one chord to another. Now there's something I call making movement minimum. You don't want to move too much because then it might fall apart. But if you think about where you're going and you think about the fingers that stay in place while you move to the next chord, you're going to make it a whole lot easier for yourself. Let me just give you an example. If I were to play an A minor chord, okay, and I wanted to go from A minor to C, the only thing I'm really doing is lifting my third finger to move to that third fret on the 5th string. See, A minor. Now, even though I might have lifted my fingers a little bit to make, to go right into that next shape, the truth is I've only really moved my third finger. So I'm making my movement minimum, and that's important. Let's take another example. If I went from A major to A minor, the truth is all I'm really doing is lifting my pinky up and laying my first finger down on the 1st fret there, okay? So I want to go back and talk about the fingers that you're using. When I talked about in the beginning about using the fingers for the A major chord, I mentioned how you could use your 1st, 2nd, 3rd finger, like so. The reason why I'm showing you the 2nd, 3rd, 4th now is because when I go from A major to A minor, it's a smoother transition. If I played the A like this, using my 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and I want to go to A minor, I've got to move all my fingers to get to the A minor. So now you can see why chord transition is so important. If I go from an E major to an A major, I'm going to lift my fingers and move these all over to the next strings, okay? And I'm still going to use the position with the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th finger. If I use my 1st, 2nd, 3rd finger, there might be too much movement involved. But in this way, it's an easier transition. So in chord transition, you want to think about that. Make everything easier. Make movement minimum, okay? So let's talk about moving back and forth between, for instance, G and C. I showed you in an earlier part of creating the G chord to play it like this, using your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th finger. Now if I want to go from G to C, it only makes sense to use that position that way, so I don't have to go out of my way to make that chord change from G using this way to this way. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying that you can't use it that way. The only thing I'm saying is you can make your life a little bit easier by making that chord transition smoother. Now, at any time if you ever have trouble in making a chord transition, what you can do is, without even strumming the string, you can go ahead and make the chord shape. For instance, here's the G shape, right? And let's say I want to go from G to D, but I'm having trouble strumming it. So what you can do is just make the chord shape and just move your fingers, okay? Again, G to D, okay? Because sometimes when you add another element, it could be more difficult. So we don't want to make it more difficult if we're already having trouble strumming while we're trying to make the transition. C to G, C to G, E to D, E to D. So that's another thing that you can do to just be a little bit more comfortable in making those transitions.